Okay, hi guys. Today we are going to start our first design thinking lesson, and this is actually the first of five. We're going to do five different projects this year, all about design thinking. And so I want to teach you what design thinking is, and then I'm going to tell you what your project's going to be, so that then after you check out, you can get started doing your project, your first project. Okay, so you can see on my screen I have the design thinking wheel, and design thinking is a method that inventors and creators, designers, scientists use whenever they're coming up with a new idea or a new invention. So, you guys are going to get to be inventors today to design tools that have never been invented or designed before. So, I want to talk about these different design thinking steps. And as you can see on the wheel, there's arrows that show that the wheel goes in order, but there's also arrows that go back and forth because sometimes when we work through the design thinking process as we're designing something new, we realize as we're going along that maybe we need to go back a step to fix something or rethink something, and then we can move forward and then back and forth if something needs changed. So, this design thinking wheel lets us really perfect our design. So, when we're inventing something new, uh, we have the best product at the end. So, the very first step that we usually start with as inventors is here at the top. It says empathize. Now, inside the word empathize is the word empathy. And I hope some of you have heard of the word empathy. It kind of just means to put yourself in someone else's shoes. So, as an inventor, you're inventing something not for yourself, and most inventors don't do this. They invent things that will help other people. They invent things that don't just help one person, they help lots of people. So, step one is really important because when we empathize, we listen to somebody else or a group of people. We listen and really try to feel and understand what they're feeling. Okay. And while we're empathizing with them, and listening and understanding and feeling what they're feeling, we can really start to do step two while we're empathizing and start defining a problem that the person is talking about. So while we're listening and empathizing with someone else, you can start to realize, oh, this person has this problem. Or while you're listening, you can start to wonder, what if we did this? That might help them a lot. Empathizing and defining sometimes go hand in hand. Now, not all the time when you're empathizing, it's not going to be obvious what a person's problem is. So that's when it's important that you're putting yourself in their shoes and really trying to understand, if I was them, what could be better about this situation? Or how could I improve this person's experience? Now, once you've empathized and defined the problem, then you have to ideate. Now, ideate is kind of probably a weird word, but inside of the word ideate is the word idea. So, this is just a stage where you come up with ideas to fix the problem. Now, ideating is actually probably the hardest step in the design thinking process because as inventors and creators, we are designing things that do not exist. We're designing things that nobody's ever thought of before. And so we really have to stretch our brains. We have to think outside of that little box that you guys have been trained to think in. You know, there are adults in your life, probably teachers, that wants you to do things a certain way, and they've trained you that you always have to do things that exact way. When we are design thinking, we have to kind of get out of that way of thinking and think with our imagination, get creative, think of things that we've never thought before. So that's why ideating is super difficult, because you have to really think freely and without any restrictions. Now, obviously, as an inventor, um, you do have some restrictions, because it's not like you can just like build a button and the button magically makes everybody's problems disappear. Unfortunately, magic isn't real, so it's not like we can invent a magic button. So you still have to think like logistically how things work, and when you're building a tool, how to make it actually reality, because we're not just like using our imaginations to use magic or impossible things. Now, when you're ideating, it's important to come up with multiple ideas, because most of the time our first idea is not necessarily our best idea. And so when you're ideating, you have to come up with, today you're going to have to be coming up with 4 ideas. So you have to create 4 new inventions that will help my problem that I'm going to tell you about in a minute. Now, our 5th step after we ideate is to prototype. Prototype means that you just build a model of your best idea. So while you're ideating, you're going to finish your 4 ideas, and then you're going to present them to the person that you're trying to help. Because remember, this is not for you. You're inventing something to help others. So after you come up with your ideas, you got to ask your person, in this situation, it's going to be me, what idea I like the best. And then once I pick my favorite of your ideas, you're going to prototype and build a model of my favorite idea. Now, we can't afford, we don't have the right supplies for you to build the exact tool that you're wanting to invent, but you will get one piece of foil to bend and twist and cut and combine together to build a model version of your invention. And then after we prototype and build that model, then we can test it. Okay, so testing it is super important, because that lets us know if our invention even fixes the problem in the first place. So this is where it's important, where sometimes as we're prototyping and something isn't fitting or it's not working, we might have to go back to the drawing board with our idea and come up with a alternative idea and then prototype again. Or we might have to go back to defining the problem and figure out, okay, what is the actual problem, and are my ideas even fixing that problem at all? So here's what we're going to do. Everybody needs their piece of paper, and on one side of their paper, you need to write your name. And on that side of the paper with your name, you're going to empathize with me. I'm going to tell you about my favorite meal of all time. I'm going to explain all about this meal to you, and you're going to empathize. Now, it's important, especially since I'm not there, that you take really good notes. You write down everything I'm saying. Now, you don't have to say word for word, just write the main things that I'm saying. So I'm going to be talking, and you're going to be listening and understanding how I feel, and you're going to write down the important things that you hear me say that you want to remember, so that then you can define what my problem is and then come up with ideas to fix my problem. Now, you might hear more than one problem while I'm talking. That's fine. But you need to work on empathizing first to listen to all of my feelings and my experience. Okay? So, my very favorite meal is every year on Christmas Eve, my family goes to my mom's house for a big Christmas dinner. Now it's me and my husband and my sister and her husband and kids, and my other sister and her boyfriend and my mom and my stepdad all at my mom's house. And we spend a big part of the day cooking our big meal. So we're all crowded around the kitchen for hours and hours. Each one of us over the years, this is a tradition we've done for years and years and years. But each one of us has kind of started being the expert at one part of the meal. So, for instance, my stepdad is always the one who grills the steaks that we have. And my older sister, she's really good at making our crab legs that we get to have with our meal. And so she's in charge of cooking the crab legs. I'm usually in charge of like the mashed potatoes. My mom likes to do the green bean casserole. And then my other sister is usually in charge of doing like the rolls and getting desserts ready. So we spend all day cooking in the kitchen. It gets kind of crowded and crazy and hot because the ovens are going and we're cooking and busy. But it's a really fun day where we're all together bonding over cooking together and kind of doing our thing. Then after we've cooked all day and we have everything ready, then we finally get to all sit down and enjoy our hard work. So we all of us fit around the big dining room table, and we have all the food there in the middle, so the table's really crowded, and we all just chow down. So we've got our steak, we've got our crab legs, our mashed potatoes, and green bean casserole and rolls, and then we've got dessert. I don't think I told you dessert. Dessert, we always have a pecan pie, and we have this like frozen kind of Snickers pie. It's not like a ice cream cake, but it is a frozen chocolatey, gooey good pie that we have for dessert. So if you've never had crab legs before, crab legs are actually in the shell of a crab leg, and the crab legs are really spiky. So they're not something that you can just grab with your hands and break open and get the meat out. They hurt your hands because they're so spiky. So usually we have to have like towels or something to grab them. There's also these crab leg crackers. They're like tools that you can like crack the legs in between. I find that they don't help very much. They're hard to use and they don't actually do much in my opinion. But sometimes the crab leg crackers can crack the shell so that then you can pull out the long piece of meat from inside the leg. Now, it kind of becomes a competition between all of us around the dinner table of like who can pull the biggest piece of crab meat out of their crab legs. Usually I lose because I'm not very good at it. I pick out like little tiny pieces of crab leg meat, but we all are working, trying to get all of our crab meat out of the legs, and we have a huge platter where we put our empty crab legs that don't have any meat in them anymore. We put that somewhere. The table's super crowded though. And then we like to dip our the crab meat into melted butter. So we have little bowls of melted butter around the table, and we get to have the crab legs with the steak. It's a really good combination. My plate's usually full of the meats and the mashed potatoes. And then sometimes if you've never had green bean casserole, it can get a little bit runny because there's a little bit of kind of soup in it. It's kind of like soup/gravy. And so sometimes that gravy part of my green bean casserole makes my roll sometimes soggy if I don't eat it soon enough. But so we have this fun time opening our crab legs, enjoying the food that we'd worked so hard for all day. And then we get to have dessert. I love dessert. And so we get the frozen pie cut up and served to everybody. Sometimes, though, by the time we've finished our whole meal and stuff, worked on all those spiky crab legs, sometimes it's hard because the pie has kind of melted. So it's not really cohesive and put together very well anymore. So that gets kind of messy and gooey and runny. Um, and it's just a really great time with all of my family. It's a tradition we do every single year. Every year it's the same meal, and it's just a really happy experience that I have with the people I love every single year. Okay, so now that you know about my favorite meal, your project is to design some type of tool that will help make my favorite meal even better. I'm not asking you to create some type of food. I want you to invent a new tool that I could use to take to my family meal this Christmas that will help fix one of the problems you heard me talk about. Now, I never said, my problem with the crab legs is, or I never said, the problem with the green bean casserole is, or the problem with the table. But you should have kind of, if you were empathizing and taking really good notes on your paper, you should have really started to hear, oh, this sounds like a problem that I could maybe try to fix. You should have started to really feel how I was feeling when I'm cooking all day in the crowded kitchen, or when I'm trying to crack open those crab legs with all the spikes on them. You should have started to feel like, oh, sounds like I could fix this. Okay, so if you've come up with problems on your paper that you need to fix, now you're ready to ideate. You are ready to come up with ideas to fix those problems. So on the side where you wrote your name, and hopefully you took some good notes, you need to flip it over, and I've drawn 2 lines, one down the middle and one across the middle. Now you have 4 squares. In every square, you are going to draw an idea that could fix one of my problems. So you're going to draw some sort of invention, a new tool that does not exist in every single box, and they all have to be different ideas. It's going to be hard. You're going to have to really stretch your brain and think outside that box. Use your imagination and be creative to draw 4 different ideas that could fix my problem. Okay? You will not have time to prototype today, but maybe if we work on this next time, you will have time to prototype. But I need you to really work on this project for me. You are an inventor. You are inventing something brand new that has never existed. Maybe if you can't think of anything, think about some types of tools that already do exist that you could combine together to help with my meal. Maybe there are tools that exist that if you take one part of this tool and one part of this tool and combine them together and add something else, makes it even better. Or if you have a tool already, but you don't need all of it, and you take part of it off and add something from a different tool and a different tool together, maybe those things combined could help. Okay, so that's what you're going to work on today after you check out. Okay.